Handmade in Italy, hand stolen in Stepney. It's as long as my arm. I wish it was as long as something else.
When Guy Ritchie's Cockney gangster film Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels hit theaters in 1998, absolutely no one would have guessed that the guy playing the fast-talking street hustler Bacon would someday become the world's last legitimate action hero. But while he may play pretty much the exact same part in every movie, that's the position Jason Statham finds himself in today. How did he wind up as the last man standing? The answer is so simple. When we tell you, it's gonna feel like a kick in the head.
All right, little man. This might be a little scary. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Although he's never made it entirely clear when exactly he learned his fearsome fighting skills, it is known that Statham started dabbling in martial arts to some extent or another at a relatively young age. And he was also an avid diver, practicing for hours each day. That practice paid off when Statham became a member of Britain's national swimming squad, representing England in 3 different events at the 1990 Commonwealth Games. He would remain on the team for 12 years, an experience he would later credit with teaching him discipline and focus, as well as keeping him out of trouble. While he enjoyed being an amateur athlete, in Statham's words, you can't earn any money at that. So to make ends meet, he followed in his father's footsteps and started working as a street seller in London. According to Statham, this mostly entailed working on the street corners, selling perfume and jewelry and other goods that were supposedly expensive.
Right, let's sort the buyers from the spires, the needy from the greedy, and those who trust me from the ones who don't.
That might have been the career he wound up in permanently, but one day while he was working out at London's Crystal Palace National Sports Centre, Statham was spotted by a talent scout for a sports modeling agency. And it was on a modeling job for the brand French Connection that Statham was first introduced to a then unknown young filmmaker named Guy Ritchie. Ritchie was putting his first movie together, and as fate would have it, he was having trouble casting the role of Bacon, a con artist who also works as a street seller. The two hit it off, and when Ritchie learned that Statham was actually a real-life street seller, he decided to cast him in the part, a decision that would change Statham's life forever. Statham's part was relatively small, and he only earned $5,000 for his efforts, but he absolutely distinguished himself with his performance.
What's that?
It's a cocktail. You asked for a cocktail.
No, I asked you to give me a refreshing drink. Wasn't expecting a f***ing rainforest.
More importantly, the film was a critical and financial success, enabling its director to finance his second movie, Snatch. And Snatch was a much bigger deal than Lock, Stock, mostly because it included Brad Pitt in its cast.
Do you like dags? Dags? What?
Yeah, dags.
Dags? Do you like dags? Oh, dogs. Sure. I like dags.
Like its predecessor, it was also largely an ensemble film, but this time, Statham would be playing the main character from the ensemble. Once again, the film was embraced by critics, and possibly thanks to Pitt's involvement, it did huge numbers at the box office. But more crucially for Statham, the success of Snatch brought Hollywood calling, and the following year, he would appear in supporting roles for relatively higher profile, bigger budget affairs like John Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars and the Jet Li action flick The One. It would be in 2002, however, that Statham would star in what is arguably the most important movie of his career, The Transporter. The Transporter was more like one of the tough guy-driven action vehicles of the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. Most such fare had long since been going direct to video, but The Transporter managed to breathe new life into the genre via its clever action choreography and its star. Thanks to his knowledge of martial arts and his natural athletic prowess, Statham was able to do the majority of his own physical and driving stunts, and right off the bat, that gave the action sequences an instant credibility that was increasingly rare in the genre. And thanks to his chronically grumpy yet charismatic acting style, Statham was able to imbue a typically one-dimensional action hero with a surprising amount of personality.
You open the package.
All 3. Never open the package. I like that.
To be sure, that personality is really just Statham's personality, as attested to by Guy Ritchie, who describes his old friend as,
although I like a lot of people, Jason Statham is a man that I love. He's grumpy, and he's one of the few grumpy people that doesn't annoy me in any way.
But because its star was barely acting, The Transporter was able to seamlessly combine elements of the old angry man on a mission type action films, which starred guys like Charles Bronson, the martial arts fighting movies which starred guys like Chuck Norris, and the non-stop shoot-'em-ups that starred guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger. As a result, action fans flocked to The Transporter, and it would spawn 2 increasingly successful sequels, both starring Statham, and then a Stathamless reboot which, tellingly, made significantly less at the box office than than its predecessor. For Statham, however, the series would open up a whole new career path: action hero.
You gave me too much.
I need you to take us to Avignon.
The deal was this far, no further. Deal is the deal. Rule number one.
Rules are meant to be broken.
Not mine.
In 2005, he made the first of the aforementioned Transporter sequels, after which he re-teamed with Ritchie to make Revolver. It was another Cockney gangster movie, but it was decidedly more action-driven than their previous two films. Followed in 2006 by what would be the first installment of the wildly action-packed Crank series.
That's what I'm trying to do. Keep moving. Keep the blood pumping.
Crank became a hit and a cult classic, and after that, Statham was off to the races as an action star. Over the next decade, he would star in a tidal wave of action films, including War, In the Name of the King, Death Race, and the third Transporter, the second Crank, The Expendables, and several sequels to it. Not to mention Blitz, Killer Elite, Safe, Parker, Hummingbird, Homefront, Wild Card, and of course, a handful of entries in the Fast and Furious franchise. And while some of these are more grounded and some are more over the top, pretty much all of these movies had Statham playing a variation of the same physically brooding pseudo-superhero martial arts master that he always plays.
Fact is.
And the fact is.
No offense.
Oh, no offense.
Now, in fairness, Statham did mix things up a little. He took an actionless turn in the Chris Evans romantic drama London, lent his voice in 2011's animated kids film Romeo and Juliet, and poked a little fun at his own public image in Melissa McCarthy's action comedy Spy.
I'm a real spy. I once drove a car off a freeway on top of a train while I was on fire. Not the car. I was on fire.
Kind of starting to freak me out.
And no doubt, that variety has helped keep the public from getting tired of him. But even though those movies weren't action-driven, Statham was still basically just playing grumpy old Jason Statham. And therein lies the secret of his success. Statham has made a career out of essentially just playing himself. And that has lent all of his performances a level of authenticity and relatability that generally isn't found in the work of image-obsessed megastars. Statham knows what his assets as an actor are, and he knows how to stay in his lane, stylistically speaking. That's why he remains a bankable star whether you put him in a big-budget studio extravaganza like The Meg, or you just give him a job title like The Beekeeper and unleash him as a beekeeper bent on revenge. And yes, that actually happened.
The only thing you know is he's a beekeeper.
A beekeeper, a beekeeper? Well, that's not good.
He is seemingly the last actor who can make non-IP driven action films that actually get theatrical releases. And he did it the easy way, by just being his grumpy badass martial arts master self.
We have laws for these things.
Until they fail, then you have me.
So what do you think? What's your favorite Jason Statham movie? And what, if anything, would you like to see him try next? Let us know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely find others you like if you check out the rest of the channel. As always, thank you for subscribing to Nerdstalgic.